Divya Sasidharan. I got that wrong. Where'd she go? She was over a minute ago. Come on up. Divya is a web developer apprentice at Sparkbox. She considers herself a city girl at heart, having grown up in Singapore. Despite her initial trepidations, she has grown to appreciate Dayton and considers it a surprising achievement that she has managed to get around Dayton without a car. Good luck.
Perfect. All right. Hello. So this was my first impression of Dayton when I moved here because I went to college in a place called Worcester, Massachusetts. And if anyone knows where that is, it's extremely post-industrial and very, very rundown. And I lived in a part called Maine South, and so there was a lot of crime, there was a lot of like nonsense going on. It was very dilapidated. And so, okay, this is my first impression of Dayton. Like my first ever, when I heard of Dayton, this is like what I saw, and I was not impressed. I did not want to come here. It looked very run down. It looked exactly from where I was trying to get away from. And so, but the thing is, when I looked up on the internet, like, believe it or not, and I found out more about Dayton, and I started to appreciate it for what it is, because the internet is a vast array of information, and you can find out about a city without even going there. And the beauty about the internet, as this kid is expressing, is the fact that you can crowdsource things. And so a lot of my information that I sourced about Dayton was from Reddit, which was wonderful. The subreddit has so much wonderful information and resources that I reached out to. I even posted right before I moved to Dayton to figure out what to do, how to get around, since I didn't have a car. Was it even possible? Because the Midwest makes it impossible. I'm sorry, the public transportation system here is... So the first order of business was finding a house, and this was pretty much what I found on Craigslist, like multiple postings. And so I came to Dayton by plane, obviously, because I had no other means of transportation of getting here. And that proved a challenge in and of itself, because getting from the airport to my house on Clay Street, I had to take a taxi, because obviously there was no other way to get there, which was a shame. But again, I did not get my heat in Dayton when I first moved, and so I had to stay at my neighbor's house. And this was in January, the thick of winter. I didn't think about turning on the heat. I called Vectron, and I was like, I'm coming. I paid my deposit. I didn't have them turn on the heat. So thankfully, this was my first impression of Dayton's hospitality. And so that's the bid that I got when I moved to Dayton. So in the first month, I slept on an air mattress and roughed it out on the floor, because that's what college graduates do after they graduate, living the whole poor college student life. But I finally got a bed. And then after getting a bed and getting more comfortable, I decided to go out and explore Dayton. And of course, I walked everywhere, because how else was I going to get around? So I just, I didn't have a map because I have a non-smartphone, so I had to kind of figure out where I was going. And so these are footprints in the snow, and obviously, for some reason, I was the only one walking around, so I dropped my phone in the snow, and no one picked it up, because, I was tracking my own footsteps and tracking them back, walking to and from work. And so that was great, I guess. So another thing that I realized moving to a new city is that I had to make friends with strangers. Since I moved here by myself, there was no other way for me to get acquainted with the city, and there was no better way to get acquainted by, talking to locals, talking to random people on the street. I met a couple of creepers, tons of creepers, and so in order to meet more people, I started, getting a hobby and finding things to do in Dayton, because especially when you move to a new city, it was the perfect situation to gain a new skill and to meet people at the same place. So I took classes at K-12, which is an amazing place to take classes at. It's wonderful. I live so close. I can walk there. It's wonderful. And so I took a lamp working class. And it was great. I met wonderful people, and this is just one of the many hobbies I acquired. I rock climb, and I do multiple things. So the other thing about moving to a new city is that it can be really upsetting and lonely at times, especially when you move in January, when it's very cold. And so one thing I had to come to terms with was that it's normal to be upset, and it was normal to be lonely, and so I had to, try to make myself feel more comfortable. And the next order of business as well was to find the closest healthcare provider, which I didn't do. And I only realized the importance of doing that when I actually fell ill and didn't have anywhere to go. So what actually happened was I ate a plate of cookie dough. And I'm from Singapore, and I always see people in America eating cookie dough, and I was like, perfect, I'll eat cookie dough too. But I did not think that it was eggless cookie dough that people were eating, and so I got really ill and had nowhere to go. So for future reference, this is Maddie. Maddie is a dog of neighbors who live upstairs from my workplace at the Firefly building. And so one thing that I really appreciate about Dayton so much is that people are so willing to help you, and I wanted to reciprocate that. So my neighbor needed help walking her dog, so I walked her dog. And, when you're nice to your neighbors, somehow or other you can land yourself on TV too. And so I was on TV. So Brim and So Dayton had a derby show in March. And so I was part of that. And for some reason, I got pulled into being on Living Dayton. And this was another fashion show that I was part of, because apparently in Dayton, when you're in one fashion show, you get pulled into everything. And so this is my friend Amma and I backstage for the Clash Spring-Summer fashion show that happened in April. It was so much fun. I had never been in a fashion show before, and of all places, in Dayton. And so the key takeaway from all of this is that Dayton has been a wonderful experience, and something that I'm leaving in June, but one thing that I will carry away with me is that I'm going to be an advocate for Dayton, because a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about this city. And so even though I can't contribute to Dayton as much in the month that I'm here, yeah.